of the school committee, I'd like to extend her deepest condolences. So, long silence. Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda is to consider and vote for the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to hold from the consent agenda for a specific discussion? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next item is correspondence. As part of your packet, there is a thank you note from the Patriot Committed students thanking those of us who participated in a dodgeball game about 6 weeks ago. To say it was fun might be a little bit of an overstatement.
It was fun.
It was fun, but it was physically taxing. Wish I could say I didn't walk away with any injuries, but I did. So anyway, it was a good time. I would certainly do it again, and thank you for those who participated. Next item on the agenda is public input for agenda items. Is there anybody who would like to speak to anything on the agenda? Nothing at all. All right. Next item is Spotlight on Excellence. We have two things this evening. Susical production was put on last week. Was it last week? So I will allow whoever is here to spotlight that. Is it going to be yes? Yes, ma'am. No? Oh, we were. Okay. Go ahead. I'll set the stage.
I'm sorry. So last week we had the first major musical from our newly formed Wilbur McMahon Drama Club. And I would have to say that as a parent who helped to watch the show, participated and watched the whole process, it was just an amazing performance, something that the school has not seen before. It was exciting for the community, and I hope that everybody got a chance to see it. If not, I'm very sorry, but you missed a great show. But I would like to say a sincere thank you for myself and hopefully on behalf of the school committee. Mrs. Oriole, you did a fantastic job. You're new with us this year, and just the energy that you brought and the professionalism that you had with the children is just to be commended, and we are very, very fortunate to have you here doing what you're doing. So, thank you. And if you'd like to add anything from your perspective about the show, we'd love to hear it.
I'd just like to say it was an amazing experience, and it was a lot of hard work, but it was definitely worth it once I saw all the students up there on the stage, so it was definitely worth it. There was a lot of community that I think came out of this too, with the faculty and the staff and everyone that helped out, and the parents, and everyone in the community. It was such a great experience to see everyone coming in and getting involved, dedicating their time, their talent, no matter how big or small they could. And even within the school, seeing all the students getting along, even the kindergarten and first graders and the 7th and 8th graders who rarely see each other are now sometimes friends. I'll see even younger students in the hallway saying hi to Horton and Gertrude in the hallway rather than their real names. But it's such a great experience. And being a first-year teacher here too, I feel like I always felt welcome here, but after this musical, I really felt part of a group and a team and a family here. So thank you to everyone who made me feel that way. And I can't wait for next year's musical.
There are kids who are already asking, what's the play next year? We're going to be in the drama club, so.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. But musical will definitely always be special to me. Thank you.
If I may, also, I did attend the musical as well, and thought it was very well done. And you're very right about the community of parents, teachers, staff, all coming together to help you put on such a terrific show. And it just showed the bonding, for me, it showed the bonding of all the students coming together to be so enthralled by it. And even if they weren't on stage, if they were backstage doing something, just the fact that they were part of something much bigger than themselves, it was really very enjoyable. And I thank you, the teachers and staff, and Mr. Luna, for everything that you're doing for the kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like, there's not much more that I can add from what has been said, but I would like to take this opportunity and thank Nicole for bringing such a tremendous play to our stage. I think we, as a group, we made the right decision by bringing in Susical. It gave us that opportunity to bring a lot of students onto the stage, have a large cast, students that probably would not showcase their talent in the other time that they did that particular time on stage. It is also very heartwarming to see that parents and teachers rallied around you and to bring to fruition a tremendous play. The dedication that took place with our teachers and the dedication took place with the community, as you said, bonded, and that brings a very different warmth into a school. On Friday, we had at least 75% of our faculty there. On Saturday, it was repeated. The food that came in to be sold in the concession stands, it was very warm, a very warm reception by the community and by the school community to rally behind you. And I do thank you for all that you did for our students, for our school and our community. Now we got the good news, because we sat down already. We looked into the new cast. We looked into let me back up 2 seconds. She did give the students the opportunity to rank what plays they would like for next year. And after ranking the plays, we sat down with 9 options and looking at the casts and how is it we could bring, Susical had 30 kids on stage, how we could bring 30 kids or more to the stage, and we chose a play for next year, a musical, that can bring anywhere between 30 to 50 students on stage at all grade levels. I'll give you the honors of letting the cat out of the bag.
It's going to be Disney's Alice in Wonderland.
Thank you again.
You notice that we're obviously positioned in a different part of the room over here. I thought we were actually going to see something from Susan, and that's why I thought we were here. But I guess this is...
They were not allowed to tape it because of the arrangement that we had, so we couldn't film it, photograph it, or tape it in any way. So unfortunately, we don't have a recording.
All right. So I guess that, is this going to be a regular occurrence, us being over here, so that we can project some things onto the screen for... Pardon?
That was the concept.
Yeah, and that's fine.
So you didn't have to go up to the audience.
Yeah. So I think in the future, we're going to try to present our meetings with any pertinent information. We're going to try to put it on the screen for you to look at and follow along. It's easier for us to do that in terms of having hard copies of everything. And then along with that, we will be putting some things on the school's website that you'll be able to access prior to the meetings as well. So I hope that this arrangement with us sort of off to the side is acceptable and workable and doable. So you can give us your feedback as you necessary. All right, the next item, we have 2 items on the spotlight on excellence, and the next one is the Chief 3000. I'm going to allow Mr. Luna to lead that discussion.
We are basically looking into enhancing some of the programming that we have in our building, and Dr. Power had a conversation with the folks from this company, Achieve 3000. I've been exposed to this a little bit before. I also know that Portsmouth High School uses Achieve 3000. Achieve 3000 is a program that's cloud-based. Basically what it is, it's a web-based program that provides online differentiated instruction for nonfiction and informational reading and writing. And as I go further into the explanation, I can get a little more detailed about the differentiated instruction piece and the informational reading and writing. Within the differentiated instruction, it engages all learners at their independent reading level, and it challenges them to improve their literacy scores. How does this take place? When you are in a classroom, the teacher has to create that differentiated instruction piece for the students. Within this program, if you are in a class that an article is provided to the students, that article is provided at various lexile levels, meaning that the student that has one particular level will read that article and be basically assessed at that level. But if the student has a better competency, that same article can be pulled from the program at a higher lexile level, and the student then has different questioning pieces, and it also has an explanation of vocabulary in a different way. Meaning, as an example, if you have a particular passage and the word perplex isn't there, and the student does not know the word perplex and the word is underlined, the student can click on that particular word, and then there is an explanation on the side about what is the meaning of the word perplexed and how is it that you would be using it in a context. Let's say that it's a lexile 700, but if we have a student that it's not at the same lexile level, and that student is at level 400. So instead of using the word perplexed on that particular article, they will use the word confused. And if the student still has a question about the word confused, the student will click on that particular word, and there will be an explanation about the word confused in a much simpler language and how it is used in context within the ability of that particular student. Level set assessment establishes baseline online differentiated lessons that match the student lexile level with the appropriate text. What that basically means is that the student is basically leveled by the matrix company. It's given a prompt at the student's grade level. And then the company will be able to determine the lexile of that particular student. And then we take it from there on that particular lexile. What are the targets of some of this program? And I'm skimming the surface of most of what this program can do. If you have students in an RTI process, it is used basically at the high school level in an RTI process. But this is a program that, being cloud-based, the student can take this material home, if you may, and from their dining room table or from their bedroom, they are able to access this particular program and read at that particular level within that particular time, and the student can be tracked as to what they are doing within this particular program. Students that require differentiated instruction, students who read beyond grade level content that require higher levels of text complexity. This is all in there embedded on that particular program, as I explained before. So it gives you an opportunity to the teacher, gives an opportunity to the student to have an instant differentiated instruction piece in the classroom. It measures the ability, ongoing assessment measures students' ability to comprehend informational text. And I do have with my reading specialists, we have had these conversations and disagreements, sometimes about the ability and the fluidity of the student being able to read, but not being able to comprehend. And when it comes to the comprehension piece, I focus on that. I believe that's the primary focus of any student that reads. The comprehension has to be there. So the ongoing assessment here, if the student does it 2 to 3 times, at least twice a week, reading the practicing piece and doing the probes that are given to the student can go 2 to 3 times higher during the school year, more than they are capable of doing presently when they go into the assessment piece to create a baseline. So is the program, I think there's one more, please. If the program has been used at the high school, it has been used in many other high schools and middle schools in the area, it is proven to help students. I know that some of you here are aware of the program, that it's used at the high school. And again, it's at the student's ability, it's how much the student wants to do, and it can be done 24/7. Every parent has access to their child's resource. So there is a login and an accessibility number that the student can share with the parent, and you'll be able to follow what the student is doing. So it depends on the student, and it depends on the teacher how the differentiated instruction will take place with this particular program. Does anybody have any questions?
I do. What encourages the student to up his or her ability?
If you give anybody the chance to become successful in anything, it drives you to the very next level. So by providing the student a reading at their level that they feel comfortable and they understand, and if the resource is there for that particular student to be able to click on and give it an explanation, that makes the student succeed, so the student wants to go to the very next level. Thank you. Yes?
Students can move up a level on their own?
Or they can move up more than one level if they wish.
Okay. If they're not comfortable, can they move down a level?
They will not go up to the very next level until they score to go up to that level. They have, in order to go up to the very left side level, they have to have completed at least 75 to 80% of the left side level that they are presently reading in.
Okay. Who's going to determine what left side of the route when we first start?
The baseline, there is a baseline given to the student at the grade level.
Okay. Second question I have is you talk about assessments. Where do the assessments go?
By a company that is attached to this particular program called Matrix something. I don't know.
Okay, so my question is, do the teachers get the assessments?
Correct.
Do the parents also get the assessments?
It's at the parents.
So they can log right into where their kids are going and they know exactly?
It's all right there for you.
Now, is this also going back to the company?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
I think
I'm
that's
not going to give you
important.
information that I don't know.
Okay, I think that's a very important question. If the kids are doing all of this work and that information is all going back to the company, that's something.
So your question is, does the company have access to the students' files, if you may?
Yes. And if you could check on that, then I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes?
So I guess I'll share what I know about this. I actually didn't realize that this was the program. I have a child in high school with some significant reading issues, and she is in a lit lab there where they use, but she's 3,000. And she is in a class that has all levels of ability. And she is able to move along at her own pace, and at home it tracks that she's, not only that she's accessed the website,
but she has to take a test and score 75 or above. It's not a difficult test, just that she's comprehended enough of the article that she read to prove that she didn't just click on it. They actually track it in her lit lab with a big chart like you can see in first grade or kindergarten, and the teacher accesses how many articles they've read every week, and they put stars up. And they actually had a pancake party yesterday because they had reached, everyone in the class had reached a certain goal. I mean, certainly they don't need to be fried with pancakes. She loves it. They have current events on there. She's never really been interested in current events, and she'll be saying something, Mom, did you know what? I'm like, how do you know, why do you know that? And she'll say, oh, it was part of my Achieve 3000 article that I read last night. So we've found great progress with Achieve 3000 for her. She has done remarkable and was able to move beyond the kids in her classroom, whereas if she had just a teacher teaching her, she might have to be held back and stay with kids that maybe weren't as advanced.
And the other piece, and if I may answer your question even a little bit better, the other piece is that the student does not get singled out within the school, within the classroom, I should say. Because if the article is about Egypt, that article has the same title for all students, let it be at the 700 lexile or 400 lexile. It's just put out in different language in order that the student can comprehend and attain success. So there's not singled out anyone.
Yes, I have a question about the content and the grade level. Is it, I'm assuming that it's grade level appropriate content, like the second graders would be able to access information that maybe is more mature than the eighth grade would be using. Is there a differentiation there?
Yes, there is. And we are basically now looking at it, bringing it into the middle school.
Okay. Not the elementary.
Not yet.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is this tied in with Common Core?
There's a tie-in with Common Core, yes.
What's the cost?
Well, we haven't costed out because what we want to do is first kind of just get a sense from the committee as to whether there's something we're interested in looking at. And then we'd come back to the cost for a particular grade. I'm thinking it was about, what, $7,000? They said, yeah, $30,000. Yeah, well, yeah, but they're also looking to go a little bit bigger than we were talking about.
Correct.
They're obviously interested in us taking a little bit of the apple we were going to take, but yes.
I believe the license is about $40 per student, depending on the number of students.
42.
$42 per student.
And from what I understand, this would replace programs that we have currently, so there would be some cost offset.
We do not have a strong program at the middle school level. We do use MyOn, that we discussed that before. We do use MyOn at the lower level, and MyOn is very compatible with this program. But this one has much more of an opportunity to help the student grow independently.
But there's a cost offset if we were to pull this in. There's other programs.
If we were to implement, this is my personal opinion, if we were to implement this program, I would suggest that we implement 5 to 8. Keep MyOn as it is, because MyOn licenses right now is about $2,800 to $3,000. Keep the MyOn license at the lower level for at least 1 more year, and then see where it takes us the year after. But I would not get rid of MyOn immediately. I do have data right now in MyOn reading at this level here of K through 3, K to 4, that I have kids that read over 20-some books in MyOn. I would not want that to be touched at all. I mean, they're really, at the lower level, they're reading a lot. MyOn is really being used.
Polly mentioned that her daughter was reading current events. is tied into Common Core. If there's topics that the student is uncomfortable with,
You can tailor this.
so you can bypass
The
it.
library, the library for this particular company, I don't want to be quoted on numbers, but I think it has about 40,000 or 45,000 choices. And my thinking right now, together with some of the teachers, is if we were to adopt this program, it would be probably advantageous for us to do an RTI process with it, and then put it through our social studies program at grades 5 to 8. The reading piece is still done, the writing piece is still done, and we do have a subject that is not being taxed within anything else in the building, with any other curriculums that would put a lot of stress into it, and we still get the outcome going through social studies.
So
We'll
does
be
it-
able to choose with those reading topics in social studies.
Dr. Parr, you know, law enforcement has instituted,
I beg your pardon?
you know, law enforcement has.
I know, and it can't be long, it's only been a couple of years.
I went to a presentation, I want to say probably 2 or 3 years ago, on Achieve 3000, and coach, I don't know her name now, the coach from Portsmouth was already making a presentation there at that particular, I can't recall the name.
And that number I said was 7,000, I knew that it was real. So I had looked at that, and it was $7,600, that's 73 kids. So, while Mr. Arruda is, would love to go to the full-blown.
Right.
I'm saying I would be looking at, start small, let's see how it works. I'm one of these people like to try stuff out, test drive the car before I buy it. Like to, start small with the kids who are going to be going over to Portsmouth because they're going to be exposed to that anyways. See how that works for us, and and make sure that it fits with the things that we want to do, and then we'll take a look and see what other things we have, and maybe we will trade off some other things, and we'll say, what, if we're going to make decisions, we'll trade this program for that.
Would it be
What I like about it is the fact that it really is a way to differentiate instruction. And Mrs. Bulgara's question is a good one, is where does that data reside? We certainly can find that out. I don't know if they keep it, don't keep it, whether they look at, if there's questions in there that kids constantly get wrong because they worded it incorrectly. I mean, that may be the only thing that may be the thing they're looking at, as opposed to keeping a repository of that kind of information on it to the coach.
We're looking at 72 licenses, so are we looking at just 7th and 8th grade?
Well,
Because
they told
we
me, I asked
need to
them,
have a license per student, right?
yes, I asked them, it's $42 per student, I asked them to break it down. The first piece they gave was for 73 students, that was a number, then you can see it went up. They're obviously interested in us, jumping in the whole pond. I'm interested in my toe in the water.
But if we're talking about the middle school, we're going to have approximately 118 students.
If we go to the whole full-blown thing, I'm saying to you, I would want to start small and
Like
see
just
how,
7th and 8th graders.
maybe 8, and see how it works.
Would it be helpful to get some data from Portsmouth on what they've encountered with it in the past 2-3 years? Sure. For the committee?
Very successful there. They have a lot of data on the students. Very successful.
What's the commitment? Is it 1 year? They've got 3-year.
Well, that's their 3-year concept. I mean, you can obviously say at the end of year 1, we're not interested, see you later. So
It's nothing more than 1 year.
I do think it's very important that we stay cohesive with Portsmouth. If they're using something, and it makes sense that we're using it too, to make it more comfortable for our children when they go over.
So right now, you had questions about the data, what data is saying, what directions back to the company, what have you. Are there any other questions right now that you want answered? You're just presenting this.
This is tonight for you to say, here's what we're looking at, here's what we're thinking, is this something you think we should continue to explore? Or if you say, we're not interested in going down that road for whatever reasons, or we find out that, you know, it has some downsides to it that you don't like, then, you know, we can walk away from it. Just because, you know, people next door do it doesn't mean we have to do it. But I was impressed with it. I've seen a lot of different programs. I like the whole concept, and so there's the root of being able to have a paragraph that's bigger or smaller, right instantaneously, and questions that become bigger or smaller for the kids. They can all do it in a classroom, as opposed to a teacher back in whenever, dark ages when I started, you know, you'd have to write, personally do all the different paragraphs, so you'd have to have all these different work pages. I mean, it was a lot, it'd be a ton of work to do this. This is all automated, which is impressive.
When would you potentially be looking to something like this school year, or is this something you
No, I
want
wouldn't
to
do
do
this
this fall? Towards the fall,
Yeah, I would think.
at the earliest?
So it's something we need to consider for this year's budget.
Well, in the world of your budget, yes, it would be something, but like I said, if you start small, it's be a big, and then you can, you know, and then you may say next year we want to expand it, so we'll.
Would it be possible to have somebody from Portsmouth come in, who's been working with it, and maybe could give us a little bit more feedback on it?
Absolutely. Great idea.
Anybody have anything else? Anybody from public want to ask a question? Very good. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report.
Yep, so, first item is the update on the regional preschool program. They are in our building. If you go by the playground, you can see that there's a fence that's put up over there. As I predicted, there would be a runner. There was actually 2 runners. Welcome to the preschool. But we do have a fence that kind of keeps them from going that direction. And we did this week add another staff person to that program because there's 2 runners, and you can imagine one's going one way, one's going the other. Now you got the other group here, and there's got to be 3 people. And I will be talking to the regional program about how they're going to do that. But I unilaterally made the decision to bring somebody else into my classroom right away, so we wouldn't have an issue with that. And we'll work out the details, but I didn't want any of our kids slipping out into the road and somebody saying, "Why didn't you?" So that's where we are with that program. And it seems to be working very well. Strategic Planning Committee met today. We've been meeting. We met last month. We met again today. We've broken it down into we're down to like 3 categories we're looking at. One has to do with enrollment, one has to do with curriculum, and one has to do with staffing. Each of the groups work today on looking at those areas, and then we'll come up with some goals and objectives as to how we will work on each one of those pieces. And we will both there, so if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, Peg Vada, who is our facilitator through this process, we met. This is the 3rd time we've met, and you can see where she's directing us. After the first meeting, I really wasn't quite certain where we were headed. I think it's pretty clear what she's trying to get out of us, and I think it's working. We have a good mix of people on the committee. A lot of the same things keep popping up in terms of what we feel are the important issues to deal with. And we're actually looking at this as a 3-year plan, not a 5-year plan. We just think things change too much over a 5-year period to have it, be looked at over that duration. So we're getting there, and like I said, enrollment, curriculum, and staffing are the 3 things that have risen to the top so far. There's a lot of overlap. So it's been a good exercise, and as soon as we're one step closer, we'll be updated. Anything you'd like to say?
It's really a good process.
I have a question. Probably for you, Dr. Power. I think you're doing a few of these in your day.
Yes.
I can't recall the group, the exact number that's on it, but I know there's a lot of people on this group. Maybe you guys can answer. Do they have firsthand knowledge of the day-to-day operations, what goes on in the school? You know, so, I mean, these people know they're gonna make decisions or recommendations for 3 years. Are they keenly aware of what's going on in this school so they can make the correct observations and recommendations?
Well, I think what's happened in my couple of times I've been to the meetings here, what happens in those situations, we added a couple more teachers to the group. You know, I'm there, Mr. Aruta's there, so we've kind of divided ourselves up into the different groups. And I mean, I spent a lot of time talking about enrollment today and how enrollment works and how it gets impacted and that kind of stuff. So in that group, I think there was, you know, some learning that went on with those people as to how that impacts the district and what happens with enrollment. I know that Mr. Aruta was, you know, has spoken in the past. He wasn't there the week prior. We talked about curriculum and instruction, so we've all weighed in on how that works. So I think that, you know, everybody who's not an educator in that group is getting some really good insight into how the educational process works. And I think that's important. And I know that I saw at the last meeting, one of our teachers sat with a group of people who were, you know, in the community who are not educators. And I think that she did a very nice job of kind of opening some eyes about here's the day in the life of a teacher. Because, you know, people kind of, everybody comes to the perspective that they sat in a chair and a desk in a classroom, so they understand education. We all have to be educational experience. Until you sit on the other side, when you are charged with instructing students and getting kids to make progress and getting homework to come back and getting kids to pay attention, and then all of a sudden it becomes a whole different issue. So I think that people who've been there have gotten some really good information from the staff and the faculty that are there, and it's coming together, I think.
Floor still yours?
Yep. So we have the school calendars. The first one is the 2015-2016. We got a notice from the town clerk that we had to add a day to our calendar. We have to close schools. I was not familiar with this, but apparently this is what we do. So it's the last day, it's the presidential preference primary. And so they'll be utilizing the building, so we need to close the building for that day. So we didn't have that in our calendar. So we need to add that, and that will be coming up later for you to vote on that. So I just want to make you aware that we're adding a day in there that was not there. And then the other calendar, 7.4, is the school calendar for next year. And what I did was I went through the Portsmouth calendar and looked at all the days that they have, and then we lined it up with, you know, to get our calendar to match that. Part of that has to do with the fact that we want to match them because if we don't, we'll end up having extra bus runs, and bus runs equal money. So we want to be as tight as we can. So we've tightened ours up to match Portsmouth on that. We put in the professional development days that we have to have by contract. And then we put in, obviously, the different school vacation days, so we're pretty much running right along with Portsmouth. I know that Carolyn tried to make this calendar look like the one we had last year. And just before she was going to commit suicide, I stopped her and said, let's go do Portsmouth's calendar. So this is what we have. So. And the unions take a look at it. Everybody's kind of waiting on this. And that will come up later for you to vote on, but I just want you to be aware of what we're doing and why we're doing that. Okay. And those are my reports.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Fowler. Next item up is the financial report. Mr. McNamee.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about last year, this year, and next year. So last year, as we discussed, and we'll be going on this a little bit later, we had an accumulated surplus of $263,000. What I am recommending in that vote is that we set aside $100,000 for unusual special ed expenditures that can impact the budget. Set aside another $100,000 for education, we're really just going to reallocate our existing fund balance, so it shows as a committed fund balance on the financial statements. So it's still going to be in the general fund, but the 100,000, we do have a capital fund that we had set up when we're doing the building project, so I'd like to set that one aside in that fund. And we will be voting on that later, I think.
Yes.
So I just want to touch base on that. On the current year, it looks like we're looking at a break even, but that break even is a little deceiving because that break even does include the 40,000 that we paid to the recreation fund. So, and some of these numbers are starting to come together. I think we may have a little bit of a budget surplus on the utility side. I accounted for that in my projection, but we may do a little bit better than the projection. Conversely, I did get 3 bills in today for our district special education expenses. So the 40,000 that I have in there might be a little on the light side. So we're still looking at some of those items that's going to impact the FY16. But overall, I'm optimistic that we should be at that, hopefully at that break even.
Right.
Some more bad news. And I don't want to steal Mrs. Allen's thunder, but we weren't the highest for the increases in Blue Cross and the Trust this year in the East Bay. Portsmouth beat us out there like 13 point something, but our increase on our medical is 11.87. If you look at the budget, I had budgeted a 5% increase, and the impact on us would be an additional $36,000 on the budgeted amount that I have in mental health care. So that's an item that we're going to have to deal with on the budget side. And I think you've got some detailed information in your packet on how that shook out. Of course, that's based on, claims usage, and, I can't profess to understand that underwriting that's in there, but obviously our claims were higher than our premium paid.
Okay.
So we're going to have to deal with that in terms of the FY17 budget.
Okay. Anything else? Any more good news?
No more good.
All right. Anybody have any questions? All right. The next item is committee reports. First item is sports and school committee.
So back from your summer after this. No. I actually don't have a lot to report. I haven't been to, I was away for most of them, and then the last one, they posted the wrong time, and then reposted it, and I never got the updated one, so I missed half the meeting. But they did report that they had a health increase of 13.9%. They're working on their budget. They put their preliminary budget in at a 2.7% town appropriation increase. They're working on their capital budget and their impact fees. That's about it.
All right. Thank you very much. Recreation committee.
Yes, I met with the contractors going to be contracting down the fields, tennis court, and walking back. And he's told us that it'll need 4 weeks to finish everything. So as soon as he gets 4 weeks of good weather, he will finish it. He hasn't been down there obviously in the winter here, but soon, next 2 or 3 weeks, he'll be gearing up and looking at the weather. If he can get the weather he needs, it's a 4-week process. So that's where we are right now.
The field and the courts and
Everything.
everything?
That's seating or no seating, I'm sorry.
Well,
outside.
we're not outside.
That's an awful lot.
No, we won't be having a dance on that anytime soon.
Excellent. Health and wellness. Okay.
Well, on March 9th, we had our Eat Green, Wear Green awareness in school. And Chartwell's came in and showed each of the lunches a way to make a simple broccoli salad. And Jean Dunn has been awesome in sending out through Heather information on Eat Right out on the listserv, which I think has been very well received. And we've also been trying to get interest from parents and community members if they have a favorite recipe. Doesn't have to be a healthy one, just a favorite recipe. Send it in, and then I send it in with the kids or email it to myself or Jean Dunn, and we can put suggestions on how to make it healthy. So just because you have a very unhealthy, it's not always bad to have one. So that's what we're doing right now.
Can I say I was there, and one of the students, I asked her about broccoli, and she said to me that she's had to eat it all of her life. And then she said, all 7 years of my life. I was like, okay, 7 years.
My son came home with a recipe and said, you have to make this. It's really good color.
Oh, yeah?
He came home and he said, this is the best broccoli ever. I said, you don't eat broccoli. And he said, I will. I love it.
I watched my nephew for 2 hours sit there with some spinach on his plate in front of him. 2 hours he stared at it and would not eat it. I said, you eat it for 2 hours, buddy. Just plug your nose and put it back. Thank you very much, Greg. We have the policy subcommittee.
Yes, we put this on the agenda because there's, Peg and I, as the policy subcommittee, we're going to start meeting between our meetings to address policies as we go through. And when we met with Dr. Power to set the agenda, 2 particular policies came to light. One, the technology acceptable use policy. The policy that we have is currently a little bit old and needs to be updated with some of the technologies that we've brought. So we'll most likely be consulting with Mr. Benjamin, get some input from him as well as some of the technology teachers. But as far as the substitute policy, that's a policy that needs to be updated pretty soon, so we're going to bring that to the next meeting because we have not caught up. We voted to pay our substitutes on a higher rate, but we didn't catch our policy up to that, so it's just another catch-up for that one. And that's it. Nothing to talk about.
Next item is personnel. We have a request for an extension on maternity leave, which we will be considering after action.
Correct. And the same thing for the other one.
Okay. All right. Moving into discussion items. First item is the use of space within the school by outside agencies. Holly, you requested this. And you can sort of set the stage for the discussion.
Okay, so I guess this came about when, as part of my coalition job, I have no office in town. And most of my counterparts in the other 38 towns in the state have an office within the school. And I just, it started by me just asking Dr. Parra if there was even any space. And then we felt that maybe this should be a policy of whether anybody, such as the PST or the LCEF, anyone with any interest in having an office here should be allowed to.
I mean, presently right now, are there any organizations that we have? I know Polly just mentioned a couple, PST. PST puts on functions here quite frequently. In terms of having space defined as an office, quote unquote, I'm not certain that we presently do have any outside organization. I don't know what we have for available space within the building. I think that what had first been looked at was the space that's down underneath the stage, which I call a cafeteria. So I really think that's the only space that's available. In terms of what we as a committee want to be doing, that's why it's on the agenda, we're here to talk about it. So does anybody have anything they'd like to?
I've got a question. I guess there's a couple of questions. There's 38 schools, and they all have an office?
Not all of them. I am currently trying to figure out how many of the 38 towns have an office within the school, but they're either within the school or superintendent's office, like the administration building, or in some cases, the town hall.
And what do you specifically going to use the office for?
Office work. I have a lot of, the coalition has a lot of papers and stuff from Project Purple, Red Ribbon Week, a lot of storage stuff. And I sometimes have to meet with the state, sometimes have to meet with my counterparts, and currently I have no place to do that.
Well, don't you come from the Wellness Community Center?
No?
They don't pay you?
No?
Who pays you? If I may, who pays
Yes,
the Prevention Coalition?
Who pays the Prevention Coalition or who pays me?
Who pays the coordinator if that's what your position is?
The Little Compton Prevention Coalition pays me.
And where do they get their money from?
Federal grant?
Okay, but you're not through wellness at all?
No?
Okay. I think other places have their people on site because they have certifications and training. Rebecca Elwell has a master's degree. Most of them have bachelor's degrees. I think it's the wrong message to send when you have a superintendent, a school committee person also coming into the school with another hat on. I don't think that's a good idea or precedence to set.
Let's do this. I think the initial request from Polly was, to Dr. Powell, was for him to consider the use of space in the school. That morphed into us considering all of outside organizations. So why don't we, for now, okay, rather than, the request was changed for us to examine how we feel about any outside organization being in the school. Although, albeit it was started through a request from Mrs. Allen to Dr. Powell. So, in general, let's just as a committee for now, there's no request right now on the table by Mrs. Allen for use of a space, although I know that's what started this conversation. So I think let's look at the organizations that might be in line to do something like this. And I don't know whether maybe it's maybe the PSD or the LCEF or Dr. Powell, you were
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, my thought was when I got asked a question, I started saying to myself, all right, so under the roof of this school, the activities that happen here are under the auspices of the school committee. So I think that there should be some kind of policy that talks about, in general, how organizations, if in fact any organization can come into your building other than the educational activities that we run. We brought in, an early childhood program, but that's education. But if you had, other requests from other groups in town to come here, I think that absent the policy, it becomes a personal issue about whether, whether we like one group or another group, or we value one group. But if you have a policy that says that yes, they can or no, they can't, that's the first level of, I think, decision for this group is whether or not you're going to allow other organizations, whoever they are, to come into the building. And then the second piece is going to be whether or not, how you're going to prioritize those people. Because when I got asked, I said, that's got to go in front of the school committee. That's not, I don't control the building like that.
So that's before us now. I don't want to look at any one specific organization. Let's just talk about pre-talk about it.
Since it's a discussion, I think that maybe a good way to proceed would be to have a discussion about that topic so that perhaps Peg and I, as the subcommittee, can take the input from the school committee and try and formulate a policy, and then also adopt, or see what we can refer to from other districts as to what the policy is, and come up with something to give or to present in front of the committee at a subsequent meeting. So I don't know if you want to have that kind of conversation now, or if you want to maybe get it on the agenda to come to the next meeting prepared for that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it makes sense if this is something we're going to look at, let's take into account what other districts may do, inclusive of.
I think we should also
This is
talk to
out.
the attorney and find out liability and cost to house outside organizations within, and put that into the policy. If there's a significant cost to the school district, would that organization pay the cost? Is there a liability? Is there certain things that have to be met?
Just, yes, I agree. So why don't we look at that, Patrick?
It seems to me, just from listening to Polly speak briefly, it seems it's more of a storage issue to me.
The storage issue is a big part of it. Yes.
So, I don't know how much liability there was in paper, but it would seem to me that if there's a, to put into the policy, because we have, if we're going to create a policy, part of it should be storage for these organizations that do wonderful things for schools. So I don't have a problem with, they got to put their stuff somewhere, But, I mean, there's plenty of places you could probably meet and greet people besides the school. This wonderful town.
Mama's lunch.
Kama's lunch is wonderful. But, I mean, if there's an issue that you've got a bunch of stuff you need to put somewhere, I mean, I would be in favor of drafting some kind of policy that we have storage for certain entities that need to use it if we have it.
Let's do this. Probably, I think maybe whatever request you want to make, let's work ourselves through the policy. Let's look at what other districts might be doing, especially in lieu of the fact that the position that you currently hold is accommodated in other schools. So we can start there and come back and talk about it if necessary. All right. Anyone else have anything else on that? Discussion items. Presidential awards for educational excellence and achievement at graduation. Presidential awards. Oh, here he is. I was absent last week when this agenda was finalized, so there's a couple things on here that I'm not so responsible. So, Mr. Ruder.
We are at all times trying to basically recognize our students for whatever it is that they do in school academically and their academic success. We do have, at our graduation, we do have awards that we present, and if possible, I would like to add 2 more awards for that particular night, which is called, one of them is called the President's Award for Educational Excellence. There is a criteria. This is put out by the National Association of Secondary School Principals, and that basically recognizes high achievement on state or national norm, reading and mathematics examinations, recommendations of the teacher plus 1 other staff member, and a grade point average of 90 on 100 scale minimum. I had come across from this. The prior system where I worked did this also, and this can be with this exact criteria, or it can be the exact criteria plus. We can tailor the criteria as we wish to our building. Also, we have the President's Award for Educational Achievement, which recognizes a student who shows outstanding educational growth, improvement, commitment, or intellectual development in their academic subject, but who do not meet the criteria for the President's Award for Educational Excellence. And this is something that I brought to you today. I know the graduation is quite a bit of time away from us still, but these are signed by the president. These take a lot of time to come in. So I know that I would need at least a couple of months to get them in, so this is why I brought it tonight for your information, and if you wish for us to do this here at William McMahon School. Mrs. Anthony is not here tonight, but I had a conversation. This award was given out here at William McMahon School in the 90s. I believe 97. She showed me the criteria that she had on file that these 2 awards were given here prior.
Yes, ma'am.
From what I understand, it is, I looked through our policy manual, trying to figure out if the school committee actually has to approve an award to be given to a student, and I couldn't find any language on it. And in the past, the awards have been chosen by the teachers and the administration. So the reason I did not suggest that we put this on an action item is because I believe that we do not have to vote on this, but it's up for discussion. I believe that our principal and or our teachers have the authority to issue an award as they see fit.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that you will have on various occasions items, just as she said, will come up for a discussion. You don't require a vote, but I think it's important for the school committee to know that there's certain things going on, because should you have some things that we discuss, and then you decide that maybe you don't want things to transpire, you want things to transpire differently in the future, in the next meeting we would have something that would come up for a vote, and you may be voting against it, or depending on whatever it is. If you say, you know, that practice in the past, I get that there's no policy, but I was going to propose at the next meeting that, you know, we discontinue something and it'll come up for a vote. So that's why it's there, so you can discuss it, and if you need it next time on.
Hi, sir. I don't think it's necessary. I mean, I think I'm all for recognizing our students at any time. I don't think we can do that too much, especially when it's necessary to the president. So I don't think it needs a vote on our behalf. I think, at least I'm of the thought that it's something that you, the administration, and the guidance and staff feel is always a worthwhile recognition. Have that. Is there anyone who feels as though that we as a committee need to consider this as an action item?
Thank you.
All right. Next item of discussion is disposal of unused assets.
And Mr. Chair, may I just say, because I can see the next one after that is going to deal with the superintendent's issue, and then we've got another one at the end of 12.
Yeah.
So if we could do 11.3, and then jump down and do 12.1 through 12.9, and then I'll leave.
Yes, I meant to.
Because I'm going to be a candidate for the job, and I don't want to use that.
Yeah, I meant to.
Well, I'd vote for myself.
I meant to at the beginning of the meeting to move that down. So we can do that right now. I'll entertain a motion to move 11.4 down and be considered
So,
under also as an action item. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
All right, so 11.3 is disposal of unused assets. And the reason that's in front of you tonight is because when I was looking for space in the building and we had to relocate some programs, it was very apparent to me that there was a lot of stuff that was sitting in locations that haven't been used in a lot of years. And so I looked up the policy that you have, disposal of school property, which you have in front of you tonight. And it talks about anything that's less than $5,000 needs to come in front of you, so you know that we're planning to get rid of it. I asked Paul to look at a small portion of some of the technology stuff. There's a lot of stuff hanging around, but these were donated to us. They're sitting under the stage, they're not getting used. And I'm just trying to start the beginning of the process to try to get rid of some of the excess stuff we have in the building so that you'll have space to do whatever, whether it's storage are full of stuff, underneath the stage is full of stuff, so. And this is what I said before, and the reason, quite honestly, this came up, because I know I had a conversation in another district where they were looking for some of this kind of stuff, and I said, well, we've got stuff sitting in here, so I think that, Paul can put an amount on that, and we can say that this is what it is, and we can take it away, and it goes away, that's fine, because on the other hand, if we can't, we're gonna pay a few waste disposal fee to do stuff. So that's why I say we just need to know that we're paying, that this is the first of many that you come in front of you. I figured we're gonna take little bites, but it's too much to do with the goal, to take your inventory. So I just asked them, give me a small piece, and a small piece, and a small piece. So we start to get some of the stuff out of the building and off to other places. And that's why it's in front of you.
Okay. Basically, for those of you who care to know, our policy on disposal of school property is such that at least every 5 years, the superintendent shall arrange for the sale and or disposal of all excess outdated district properties whose itemized value is less than $5,000. A list of items shall be provided to the school committee in advance of disposal. Proceeds from such sale and disposal shall be deposited in the general fund. Disposal of items valued at $5,000 or more shall be by public invitation to bid. Failure to receive bids duly advertised shall cause such items to be disposed of by the superintendent in an appropriate manner consistent with paragraph 1 of this law. Next item is moving under action items. You have 12.1. Consider a vote to approve maternity extension request. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any more discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Does she have sick leave available? Is this without pay?
I will defer to, to your right.
In order to extend it, she would have to go into, that's what she wants to do.
Anything else? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Consider and vote on chaperones for the DC trip. I'd like, I guess this isn't something that typically.
Yeah, I think that it got on there because I didn't know that it probably didn't need to be there, and that's why it's there. You don't really, I mean, it's there now, you can vote on it, but you don't usually do that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'll entertain a motion to postpone this indefinitely.
We'll make a motion that we postpone a vote to assign chaperones to the DC.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Is that unanimous? Yep. Consider and vote on a field trip to Yale.
And that's the that exceeds 100 miles.
I got a question.
Sure.
I've never seen this yellow trip. Is the yellow trip?
Yes, sir.
Is this $3 to get a pen?
No. This was sent to us by Yale University, and this is basically a day that students from grades 7 through 12, I believe, will be able to spend at the Yale University and be able to register prior to going there to take in courses, that a variety of courses, and I will mention some of the courses that they were able to take there. They can take biology and medicine, robotics, programming, computer architecture, graphic design, math, engineering, food, foreign languages, psychology. So prior to the student arriving at the site, we will pre-register the student in 7 different courses for that particular day. It is a long day. It goes until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. There is a cost to it. We are looking into organizing our 7th and 8th graders to get a group to attend on April 2nd. The cost is $15 for the courses. and $5 for a prearranged luncheon. So it's a $20 fee to bring the students down to Yale University. It's a great experience. They will be able, they are encouraging literally the students not to be as a group, but to sign up for the classes that they have an opportunity to take, and they would like to experience. The key to this here is the difficulty. How is it that we get students to go anywhere on a Saturday other than the baseball field? And we have had some programs that take place on a Saturday, and it's difficult. We just had a program that I might as well mention them right now. We had Seaperch, a regional competition that I basically had to address every single one of the parents of those students in those teams to make sure that we had a good show up in order that we were able to enter the competition. Guess what? We came out in first place. And now we have to take those students and bring them to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We won't talk about that right now. But that's the type of thing that it takes a lot of parent support on a trip like this, in order that we have. I will gather all the information to go out to parents. I will register the students within the school. I will have chaperones to go with them on a Saturday. We will, with your permission, provide the bus to go on there, but then we have to have the bodies come to us and to make that commitment, because we have sometimes, oh, I'll go, Mr. Rudo, I'll go. And then it comes 2 days prior, oh, I can't go because I really didn't do this. So this is a commitment. And this is a commitment that we don't want. We want them to look at Wilton McMahon School as a academic institution with integrity, and that we move forward that way with our students.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I will entertain a motion to approve the field trip to Yale University.
So,
Is there a second? Anybody have any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Consider a vote on matching funds, $5,000 for an anti-bullying program. Anyone here? Again, this is something that we know. I don't know who's in it.
This is a request from,
Oh, is this, Mr. Ruda? There you go. All I gotta do is look to you. I don't know what it is. I'll just look to you.
there's money going out, it's Mr. Real.
With your permission, let me, I want to set up this short video about this particular program, and then I'll make an explanation and entertain some questions.
Hired teachers who are brand new to teaching, teachers who are very experienced, and all who come in and embrace the program because they could feel its effect in the school when they come in the door.
My friends and I got into this really big fight because of who was going to be what in soccer.
Last year, people were just calling everyone else names. It was terrible. And and everybody got at least really down that field, including me.
When children come to school anxious, afraid, when things happen in schools that cause them to feel that way, they're unable to learn.
Some people make fun of Agent Ag, and then I thought that
In Open Circle, students learn the skills that allow them to communicate and work cooperatively together. They learn how to be good listeners, and they also learn how to speak up and to express their ideas and opinions.
You are a bystander and seeing someone get teased. Normally, you're going to feel bad for that person, and sometimes that helps bring up the courage to help them.
In Open Circle, students learn how to recognize when they're getting upset, and they learn strategies to help them calm down.
This really helps me calm down. I hope it helps you calm down. That's why we call it not just calm breathing, but a quiet moment of getting ourselves ready to be good learners and good thinkers.
In Open Circle, teachers meet with their students 2 times a week, always leaving an empty space. The empty chair symbolizes the idea that anyone is welcome to join the circle and that diverse opinions are also welcome.
I'm hearing something, okay? There's a problem with the substitute not understanding how our classroom works when I'm gone. Am I correct in that?
Sometimes I feel like the substitute doesn't realize that we're just kids. Maybe the substitute doesn't let us play a lot because we talk a lot and sometimes we yell a lot.
Open Circle provides schools with a grade-differentiated kindergarten through 5th grade curriculum. The year-long curriculum provides teachers with lessons that help them facilitate meetings that teach specific social and emotional learning skills.
So the situation is, he always gets the rebounds and he always shoots the ball and he doesn't share very well. We're going to think of several solutions. So what are you going to do? Let's brainstorm some ideas.
Our training program is unique in that it helps teachers develop facilitation skills to implement Open Circle, but it also allows them the opportunity to reflect on their own social competency skills.
By setting the tone on how you want your classroom to be, the community, the idea of community, and how important it is, and how caring we are. As they learn the new language, their behavior follows.
Nós também estávamos falando porque não explicação.
At the core of Open Circle is our belief in the importance of relationships to both social and academic learning. Open Circle is about the relationships among children, the relationships between children and adults, and the relationship among adults.
I feel as though I get more done, more academics done when I do Open Circle on a consistent basis because I'm not solving a small little problem. And the children will ask for it now. If I'm remiss and I don't get to it a couple of times a week, when are we going to have an Open Circle?
I've had the chance as a principal to use Open Circle in a real setting, and it really, really works. It gives you the tools to solve problems that we all face every day in schools.
I think I measure the success of Open Circle in the school by the kinds of choices that the children are making, and by the way they solve the problems that come up in their daily lives in school. I see a big difference.
With the things you learn, you can solve your problem. You don't need to keep calling the teachers. You can solve your own.
I told my class, and so I was only thinking about it from my point of view and how it happened in my point of view, and then they kind of turned it around and said it like it was the friend's point of view. And so then the next day we worked it out, and so now we have like a system because of the Open Circle, that advice that I got.
I have a friend, he's from my class, and in our bus, when we fight, I call him names, and sometimes I remember from the Open Circle that sometimes you don't need to call people names. You can just like, if he's saying something bad to me, you can ignore them. You can tell them to be quiet, don't do that again. And I also learned that you don't need to fight because fighting is not going to solve nothing.
That you can like express your ideas and like not have to like worry about if like people are gonna like make fun of you.
Open Circle has changed people's minds about who I am and differences, so they don't make fun of me.
Open circles where you'll see there's plenty of room for you and me. Stop when you get angry.
So Open Circle is a program that has been around for a few years now, and it's basically produced by Wellesley University, professors from Wellesley University. This is a program that is around us in certain schools. Portsmouth is one of them that uses a Hathaway School. We have had it also at Portsmouth Middle School as a program. It's a social and emotional program. And it's basically about relationships and how is it that students create those relationships and problem solving. As part of our anti-bullying committee, we decided to have some discussions about this particular program, and Mrs. Anthony had done quite a bit of extensive research on this program. We decided that we would go outside and see the program in action. So the anti-bullying committee went out to Connecticut, myself, Mrs. Allen, Mrs. Dunn, Mr. Ray Marquardt, Mrs. Anne-Marie Donnell, and we were able to visit a school where Mrs. Lambert's daughter is the principal, and we saw 3 different grades in action, and we saw how the program is implemented. But as we walked right through the door of that particular school, we were able to determine immediately that a different culture existed in that school. We could tell that everything was at a very low tone, and if people were acting, if you may, in a very different way, in a very more relaxed way, in a more respectful way of one another. And as we had a discussion with the principal prior to going into the classrooms, and then we had a discussion with the teachers that were part of the implementation of that program from its inception, and we gathered that would be something that we would like to bring to Wilma McMahon School. There is a language that it's adopted. There are strategies that are also adopted within this particular program. And when the principal goes to a meeting, when the principal goes to an assembly, there is language that it's a common language used throughout the whole entire building. When a teacher addresses a student, that common language is also used. Some of the little things that happen in the playground, students are able to basically take care, if you may, of their own problems. They make those decisions, the good-based decisions. If they do have a bigger decision, when the Open Circle takes place about 2 times a week, and it's a 15-minute block, most of the time 15, 20 minutes. And if there is a bigger problem, they can discuss that at the Open Circle. They do follow a curriculum, and but if there is anything that needs to be discussed because something did happen that is not following the curriculum at that particular time, they will sit. There is also an empty chair within that circle that allows always someone to be able to participate and be part of that discussion. Within the school system, everyone is trained, including, let's say, the paraprofessionals that deal with those students. The paraprofessional will be trained in the same exact language, it's a different training. The literacy coaches, the guidance, the special educators, anyone that deals with that particular student, that has an interaction with that particular student, will be trained. We found it to be a good program, so we took our very first step as an anti-bullying committee, and we directed ourselves to the Little Compton Prevention Coalition. We made a presentation there, and we were asking if they would be one of our partners in bringing this program to our school. So they agreed with us that they would give us $5,000 if there was a triangular piece on this. So Prevention Coalition would give us $5,000. Then we went to the Little Compton Education Foundation and we made a presentation to them also, and they said that they would also give us $5,000 to bring the program into the building. So we bring it to you here today to see if you want to become that third leg in the triangle, and if you would be able to give us the $5,000 to basically train teachers K-3, all teachers K-3, including aides and literacy coaches and special ed coaches. It's about $1,000 per. It's $1,000 per person to be trained. The teacher will be trained 2 days at Wesley University, 2 days in the building. I don't think there's anything else that goes with it. Do you have any questions?
I see in the literature it says K through 5.
Yes.
Is that as far as it goes, the circle of open circle? Is it just K through 5?
Presently, yes.
Okay, so I think it's wonderful that we're doing something with bullying. Who chooses to be in the circles? Is it every kid K through 5?
This is within the classroom setting.
Every kid.
So every classroom, if we go, let's say, in training K-3, every classroom in K-3 will have their own circle.
So every student from K-3 is going to be in the circle.
Correct.
In their circle.
Correct.
So I think it's fine. I've been more than happy to vote for the money. I think it's also very important, the bullying in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, especially with the technology we have, with the smartphones and the internet and everything that's going on. I think it's more dangerous than you'll see with a K through 8. And I don't want to minimize bullying because it's very important to me, and as you know. So I think your anti-bullying committee, which I commend you doing this, but I also like to see something with 6th, 7th, and 8th. I'm sure there's programs out there. I know of a couple, and maybe you can investigate that. And I think it's great that you get people to chip in. So, you know, if you can...
If I may answer your question, we have a program that is going to take place April 1st. We always, as a committee, we try to bring programs into the school. And we realize what we are doing. The program that is taking place on April 1st, it's called April Friends Day. We have a national speaker that's coming into our school with the help again of the Little Compton Prevention Coalition and the Little Compton Education Foundation. Keith Deltana is going to make a presentation as a national speaker. And we do have those efforts, sometimes twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, that brings them into the building and addresses the whole student body, basically.
Yeah.
But those, Mr. McHugh, those are what we call Band-Aid issues. Basically, we are now bringing people from the outside because they are sick and tired of listening to me and listening to Mr. Markup with the same message. So now we're bringing the outsiders to bring that message. We're bringing someone that is nationally recognized. We've brought people that the students can identify with. But our hope is that a program like this that brings a different culture to the school will be able to, when they get into that 5th and 6th grade, carry that culture with them and turn things around.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And changing the culture is very important with bullying. But I'm looking for something in the 6th, 7th, 8th grade that's going to be sustainable here. It's going to be able to stay here.
And that's something that probably will be developed by us. I don't know of any program out there that, it might be, I don't know, that's something that we can we can procure and see what is it that we can attain.
So the open circle, would that be something that's sustainable here? How long will it last? Will it last a year, 2 years, 3 years?
This is a one-time training. Unless there is new teachers that will come into that particular grade, then we'll have to train them again to the cost of $1,000 per person. This is a one-time training.
So can you, again, I'm sorry, can you just clarify where the funds are coming from? You're asking us for $5,000.
We looked at an average of $15,000, 5,000 LCEF, 5,000 LCDC.
Okay, and then you're asking for $5,000.
Correct.
Certainly, I have no problem at all. Yes.
It really sounds like a wordy thing, but it must come at the expense of time in the classroom. So how, what is it taking away from in order to do this?
That question is always asked, and mainly because we try to fit so many things into the classroom piece. And what we heard from the teachers at the Hamilton School is that they get, even though they take these 15 minutes, let's say on a Monday and 15 minutes on a Thursday, to have the open circle with the students, on the long run, the students get to task much faster, and they have very little dealing with the student with the discipline, that the longer range outcome, it's that they spend a lot more time in the books. And they become more productive within the classroom.
Only teachers and the aides that may be with them, paraprofessionals that will be with them, will be in the circle, correct?
Special educators?
No, but I mean...
There's always an open chair. And if I could, and some school systems have done, you can take your secretary, you can take your custodian, you can take anyone. There's always an empty chair. And if the person wants to sit and listen and participate, they are always welcome.
May I share?
And that is the purpose of it.
May I share the story about the custodian?
Correct.
So they had an open circle, and the custodian came in, and the classroom teacher asked him to sit down. I don't remember his name, but and they had a discussion with him about his job and what he liked to do in his spare time. He said after he left school, he went to the gym. And one day within the classroom, the kids had made a very large mess. And the teacher explained to the students how, did they remember Mr. Custodian liked to go to the gym after school when he was done work, and they did. And how was he going to feel when he now had to clean up their mess? And the kids genuinely felt like it was their mess and they needed to clean it up. So they bring everybody in, and there's just this tremendous amount of respect for not only one another, but everybody.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ruda. I certainly think that anything that's going to help change the culture of bullying in the school, I don't think there's anyone in this room who can't say at some point, at one point in their life, that they were tormented by some of their classmates. If you don't remember, then you're not thinking hard enough. Anyway, I think it's a worthwhile expenditure, and I'm happy to put a motion on the floor to extend $5,000. I want to have one other question. Let's put the motion on the floor first. I'll make a motion to, pardon?
Can I ask a question of our solicitor?
Sure.
Can we get in any trouble if one of our members is a paid employee of the Prevention Coalition who is she allowed to vote?
I will be recusing myself regardless.
Well, I think that I just want to be careful because I believe that the law states that we can be involved in the discussion. So I just...
Well, the best way to answer that, and it's not specific to this motion, but in general, it's always up to the individual member of the panel to consider recusing himself or not. In this
this particular instance, Mrs. Allen's already indicated that she would. So it's really, it's not the committee getting in trouble, it would be the member, potentially, could be. So it's literally the responsibility of the individual member who, if they have a feeling that it might be inappropriate for whatever reason for them to vote on a particular issue, it's up to them. But in terms of the committee as a whole, it's not up to the committee to address it or enforce it, it's up to the individual person. And they're free to ask advice as well, if they want to, but that's generally how I think it should be looked at.
I was going to make a motion myself, but I'll entertain another member of the committee.
I'll make a motion
to
match
match the
funds to the
5,000.
anti-bullying program, $5,000.
John, is that other good news that we're putting at your doorstep? Don't we have to figure out what this $5,000 is going to be?
And that's what we're in discussion after the motion, right?
Correct. We have a motion, is there a second? I'll second. All right, discussion. Do you have a question that you wanted
Yes,
to?
where is this fund, the $5,000? I know that it doesn't seem like a lot, but again, in our budget, and you're saying that we're pretty much going to break even this year. Where is that $5,000?
Well, the break even is with the $40,000 contribution, so you would agree to take that out of your accumulated surplus, so in essence, you'd be showing $40,000 surplus this year, so we do have those funds available.
Okay.
All right, motion is made, second on the floor. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Please note that new member Holly Allen has recused herself from that vote.
How was that job before? Before now? Coalition. Forever? Yeah, I'll like to take any more questions.
Consider, next item on the agenda is consider and vote to allocate reserve funds. As Mr. McNamee has recommended over the past several meetings, he has asked us to consider dedicating $100,000 to a capital improvement fund, I guess that we still have available to us on the building project, and also asked us to dedicate, on paper, I would guess at this stage of the game, $100,000 for any unanticipated special education funds. So why don't we handle those one at a time? I'll entertain a motion to dedicate $100,000 of our reserve to capital expenditures. So, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Discussion.
Do we need to remove from the 5,000 that we just, I'm just looking at the 5,000 that we just approved, that's coming out of $40,000.
No.
No.
We're all set. I think that there's nothing better that we can do. We just spent a lot of money on this building, and time creeps up on us very quickly, as we all know. And I don't want to see a situation come about in which we don't have money set aside for unanticipated expenditures. So I think that it's a good idea for us as well as future school committees to be able to keep those funds set aside. Obviously, any school committee can make the decision to reallocate those funds if they so choose, but I think that taking this step is good fiscal responsibility, so that's all that is. Anybody else have anything else to add? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And the second part of Mr. McNamee's recommendation is that we set aside $100,000 of our reserve for unanticipated special education expenditures. I'll entertain a motion to that effect. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Now, this is not going to be, this is still be a part of the general fund. And we'll see what happens with this. And
there's going to be an internal restriction on that reserve, the remaining accumulated surplus.
Motion's made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.
So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I've been reading in some of the other newspapers about capital expenditure. And John would know better than I would, but it seems like for us to access matching funds from the state, at some point, the system's going to have to come up with a 5-year capital expenditure plan. Am I right about that?
Yeah, every district should have a capital plan that goes up 5 years. But when you apply for housing aid with RIDE, it's a process now that you have to apply on an annual basis, and it's competitive, so the funds are competitive. So once we have the money set aside, we can then leverage that. I think our reimbursement is either 35 or 40%. So we can then leverage that 100,000 to 140,000 worth of repairs or improvements in the building. So as we build that up, it's going to give us an opportunity to look long term to see what we're going to do. It may be energy efficiency projects, and again, it's an additional 4% reimbursement if we do that. But at this point, you know, there are certainly things that are going to come up in the building that we're going to need to do. But I'm really looking at that more from a a capital enhancement to the building at this point. And there will be, and I think the government has committed to funding this on an annual basis. But there's about $200 million worth of projects that are going online this year. In fact, I have 75 million of that will be going in myself. And I would suspect that those programs, because there are a lot of these districts that need schools, so we're going to be in there competing. But the smaller projects are not going to be as competitive as the larger ones. In our case, we've done the big ones, so we've got that behind us. So we'll have a good opportunity to get some of that money as we go forward. So that's why I want to just make sure we have those funds available. There are opportunities we can borrow that money from. They have a loan program that you can do as well too. I think it's more appropriate if we have the reserve to use the funds rather than borrow.
I think it also answers to your question that the taxpayers group had at one point about whether or not there was a plan. If there was a reserve, is there a plan? And the state is going to require that there be a plan. So it's not just the money's there, but there's also a plan that we should make. I know there's big to do in another community about a 5-year plan.
As far as putting together a 5-year plan, obviously coming on the heels of a pretty extensive renovation, what do we need to be doing in terms of?
Well, they call it an asset protection plan. So basically, you're going to be looking down the road, and there are certain maintenance items that will be operating budget items, like if you're going to be redoing the gym floor or doing some routine maintenance, you'll put that in there so that RIDE can see that you are making an effort to maintain the facility. And then you will also have a portion of that that would be subject to this housing aid, which would be capital improvements. So it would be a combination of those two. And in our case, we've got the one building, so it'd be easy enough to, to sit down, maybe yourself and Bill Moore and the superintendent, and just kind of see where we're looking for the next 5 years. I know Bill's got a few ideas about maybe some energy efficiency products. I mean, we've done projects, we've done some things like the windows, we've done the caulking on that, but those are all paid out of the operating budget. So it'll be a combination of both operating and capital.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is consider a vote to approve the closure of school on April 26, 2016 for presidential preference primary, PQ. All right. I guess we don't have much say in the matter, so with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the closure of school on April 26, 2016 for presidential primary. A motion to that effect?
Yeah, so moved.
Is there a second? Any more discussion? All
I
those-
think we should
Yes, ma'am.
send out to the listserv right away that that's going to happen because people make plans. But I think they need a special notice for this date.
Specifically April 27th.
Yeah. I mean, I usually babysit on Tuesday. I won't be in here. So now somebody's got to be able to get it. So I would like to throw
Many
out.
other people like to do that.
Yeah.
All right, any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Is there
Hang on one sec.
a reason why we have to go to school if they're only using the gym? Can't we?
Well, I think that all the schools have had the issue of you're going to have strangers coming into your building. That's been the issue. Apparently, that's why we closed for all the elections, is because you've got people in the buildings that you can't necessarily keep an eye on where they're going. That was the reason.
I mean, I can understand that there was presidential election, there's going to be a lot of votes, but the primaries.
Yes, sir.
At the risk of being accused of offering an unsolicited legal opinion, from a liability perspective, it is a bad idea to not close the school. Because you can't, the reasons Dr. Powers is suggesting is it creates a huge security problem. And I'll just give you an example. If you follow the news recently, there's been some increased violence at some Donald Trump rallies, and obviously a lot of voters are heated, and then we have the continual concern about the security for students in schools. It's just from a liability perspective, I think it's like a no-brainer that we not have school at today. That's it.
And it just gets bumped in and back into our schedule.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is consider and vote to approve the school calendar for 2016-2017.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm assuming this went to Mrs. Dunn and the members?
Yes.
Yeah, so they've seen that.
Yeah.
Can I recommend that, I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it, but didn't Barrington just have an issue with their schedule, their calendar, they approved it, and then there was some issue that the parents had, and then they had to,
I haven't heard that. I don't know.
the bell times?
I mean, we're locked in, lockstep with Portsmouth. I mean, it's not.
I know, I actually printed them out,
Yeah.
and we are.
Yes, sir.
You know, Carol and Dr. Parr, they did a lot of work scheduling this up. I don't like it. I like our kids here, K through 8, to enjoy as much of the summer as they can. So you got them going back on the 22nd. Last year we had, this year was the 31st. I'm sorry, the 25th. You had them 31, 6 days later. I would much rather see them go back on the 31st. And they get out on June 17th. I know there's a couple of snow days in here. And you got them going, leaving here on June 13th. I'd rather see them catch the end of the summer than the beginning of the summer, personally. If they're in high school, maybe it's a little different, probably not, but I'd rather see them go back as late as they can. That would be my hope.
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, the only reason I did that is because if we did what you suggested, we would be running additional bus runs. So you're gonna run additional runs to Portsmouth, so you're gonna, and I don't know what that cost is, but it's gonna add up quickly, because those buses are expensive, so you're gonna be running extra days of buses.
$125. $375 times 6.
Well, depending on how many buses, it's just the elementary, but I think we run 6 buses on the elementary, right? Usually the elementary that drives the busing anyway, so.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the calendar as presented. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make a motion that we approve the calendar as it's presented.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Any more discussion? Patrick, to your point, I agree. I don't know what happens to the time. You know, we used to go back after Labor Day when we were young. I don't know where that's gone, but I do think that we need to remain consistent with what Portsmouth is doing.
Chairman, can I suggest that
Yes.
maybe through our liaison with Portsmouth, that Mrs. Allen tell Portsmouth that, you know, we're not happy and, you know. And the other question would be, why are they starting so early? Maybe they have a reason, maybe they don't.
They have started early in the past few years, and the kids haven't much.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1 with Mr. McHugh not here. All right. Moving on, consider and vote on disposal of unused assets. Entertain a motion to vote to dispose of the unused assets that are presented in your packet.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I will second that motion.
All right, any discussion?
I do. I reminded the committee about a year ago or so, I brought this up to Mr. Benjamin and to everyone, and it pretty much fell on deaf ears. So I'm happy to see that we're scooping up all this technology now. Maybe we can make some money with it.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Consider and vote on appointment of lacrosse coaches. Would you like to indicate to us who those coaches are? Or
Yes,
is that-
we advertised, and we viewed that we have back with us for the girls lacrosse, Mrs. Josie Harkins, that has been with us for at least since I've been here. And Mr. Morse is going to be the boys' lacrosse coach.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Are we also running the early, should we be approving that now too, while we're approving lacrosse coaches?
We have,
Lacrosse coach,
There's also an elementary school lacrosse program. Do we
there
have-
is a grades 1 through 4 lacrosse that we ran last year, and we are running again this year, but that's with a volunteer person, a volunteer mom, and all parents, if you say.
So we don't need to approve.
I don't believe we do, but if it is, then I'll bring it back to the committee. We did last year, so I don't know.
Motion is made and seconded to approve two lacrosse coaches, Josie Harkins and, excuse me, what's the gentleman's name?
Morse, Mr. Morse. I can't recall his first name.
Peter Morse.
Peter Morse.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'll entertain the motion.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Dr. Powell, thank you for being here.
Yep, you're welcome.
Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
As Yogi Berra, the late Yogi Berra said, this is deja vu all over again. We are beginning a search for a full-time, part-time, or permanent part-time superintendent. Obviously, you all know that we went through this last summer, not realizing that we were going to be going through this again this spring. But nonetheless, it's something that we must do. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening. I'm going to be appointing the superintendent search committee. And what I've done, there's going to be 2 members from the school committee. Last go around, we had committee member Allen and Mrs. Lugera on that committee, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit. So I have spoken to Mr. McHugh and to Mrs. Crafty, and the 2 of them have agreed to be on that committee. So they will be representing the school committee. What I've also done is I have asked Jean Dunn if she would put before the faculty a request for anyone who would like to be on the committee. And 2 responses. I had only initially intended to put 1 member of the staff on there, but since we only had 2 responses, I didn't want to have to tell anyone no. So 2 members of the staff have agreed to be on the committee. They are Kathy Aguiar and Cheryl Conley. So I welcome them both to the search committee. Turcott if she would appoint her designee, and she has. Heather Fitzgerald will be on the committee as well. I asked Bob Mushman if he or his designee from the council would like to be on the committee. I think at this stage of the game, he had said that he would do it, but I will leave that up to him to decide. I had asked a parent, Victoria Talbot, if she would be interested in being on the committee, and she has agreed. And rounding it out would be Mr. Aruda as principal. So I think we have a good cross-representation of the school. I didn't venture too far into the community. I know there was a couple people who had asked along the way some time ago if they could be on the committee, and I decided to not go that direction. So Mrs. Talbot's going to be representing as a parent. That puts the total at 8, which I think is a good number. And I want to remind everyone that this committee basically is there to vet, accept, and review the applications, which will be looked at up against the minimum requirements that we as a committee will be voting on this evening. And all they'll be asked to do is to present us with qualified candidates. They won't be recommending anyone. They won't be telling us who we think, who they think we should pick. That comes down to the school committee as a whole. So I just want to remind everyone of that.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you going to appoint a chair, or are you going to ask for us to go within the committee to find a chair?
I'll appoint a chair, and I'd like to appoint you if I could.
Okay.
And again, this is just to set the agenda, set the date, communicate to all of you. This is not, I don't see any partisanship at all in this process. So there was some concern, I think, before when we were going through this last spring and summer, that the people who are on this committee were going to be able to affect who it was that we as a school committee are going to be considering. So anyway, so that puts a total of 8 people. I originally intended on putting 7, but because we have 2 members of the staff, that puts us at 8. Kevin, if I could ask you, when that subcommittee gets down to if they should have to vote to recommend, how does that work when you have an even number of people?
Well, it gets a little tricky sometimes if there's anticipated to be, disagreement among the group, because you'll never know in advance whether it's going to happen or not. So what I would suggest is that when the 8 get together the first time, they set some ground rules about define what a quorum would be, define what kind of, whether it's a simple majority, whether there's something more than a simple majority, formal vote on something. But it's manageable as long as the ground rules are set before any particular issue comes up.
Okay, that's fine.
In the event of a tie, obviously that the ground rules should include in the event of a tie
what happens.
And then there's some
you should know ahead of time.
Yeah, there's just some solutions to that. But because that way nobody gets accused of making up the rules as you go along. So simple.
Okay, that's fine. So that's what I'll ask you to do is to establish how you're going to handle things. Simple majority would be 4, correct?
Well, not 4, not at this age.
5? No.
Which happens like if you look at, the one I'm most familiar with is the Judicial Nominating Committee. They, in addition to, for example, voting who to put forward, it's like a point system, and then they have re-votes, and then you won't get a deadlock tie like that. That gets a little, it's hard to explain, but it's a workable system.
Could you explain it to
I was going to say, can you suggest?
United States Senate, the Vice President gets to vote. But if there's no tie, the Vice President doesn't vote.
I would, for you to be able to communicate with Kevin.
Maybe you and I can get together and talk to Kevin.
Yeah, I like the point system, I think that's good.
Maybe we
Good to feel that.
Get together and talk with you about some suggestions.
All right. I don't know that we have to vote on that appointment. We have not. So I think that it's not something we can vote on. All right. The next item on the agenda is to consider and vote on the superintendent job description. I had Carolyn send that out to everybody again. So you have it, hopefully before you. Basically, what this job description is there's 7 minimum qualifications that we used last time, and then there's performance responsibilities.
Can you refresh my memory how we came to this document?
This document was put together by Mr. Rivera and Mrs. Craft, at my request, by the committee to consider and vote on.
We discussed
I remember.
the main changes.
Is there anything that anybody would like to make mention of before you return to the job description? Is there anything that anybody would like to make mention of or would like to change?
I think we did a heck of a job with this. I know it was a lengthy process when we did it, and I think we did a good job.
Is there, we need to change dates if there's any dates? Or, I think it's just a job description.
Correct.
Right? We should be. Unless there's any descriptives that we want to add and or change at this point.
The only thing that I don't know whether this needs to be stated or not, Kevin, if you could just listen on this one. I mean, we have minimum qualifications here. These are minimum qualifications. And I think that any qualifications above and beyond, can be considered. Does that imply?
Oh, yeah. The converse of that is if it requires a superintendent certificate license, and if the candidate doesn't have it, then they're out.
Do we need to put that in
No,
specifically?
No, the minimum requirements, if they're not met, then they don't qualify.
We ran into that.
Right. So is there anything that anybody sees in here they'd like to change, or propose to change?
I'll make a motion. Vote on the superintendent job description.
And I think that yes, I'll entertain a motion to approve the job description as provided. And could I get you to add to your motion, and would like to post this immediately?
I'd like to post this immediately.
And for a duration of?
For a duration of?
2 to 3 weeks?
2 to 3 weeks.
2 weeks? 2 weeks. There we go. 2 weeks.
I made the motion, 2 to 3 weeks.
Well, let's go with one or the other.
Let's go with
10 days.
3 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Here's the motion.
Do you have
It's
that?
Pat. It's Pat.
My motion.
Is there a second? I'll second that. Is there any discussion?
I didn't know if you wanted to add something about the duty of the superintendent to act as the department's public records officer in this policy. I don't know if you want to add to the job description, but it is an annual requirement that a current certificate of compliance be maintained per the Massachusetts Department of Records. So I don't know if we need to state it in the job description or if it's just given because it's a policy. So
You can put it in there, I don't think you have to, as long as somebody, it doesn't have to be the superintendent who's the official. It just has to be designated every year. So to put it in that job description, it seems to me you would, one would infer from that that no one else can do it. And I don't think you want to do that.
other than some typos that can go
Feel free.
And then I didn't know if number 8 is that they, if they are not currently serving, if they do become a serving member, correct?
What we asked?
That
That's
sounds
good.
I know.
Yeah, no, we wanted him to be on the,
Not prior to.
not a re-ask, that's school committee.
It's the.
You want him to be on the superintendent,
Yeah.
and then you want him to be on the new
County regional.
County regional.
I think that, the only other thing on the minimum qualifications, do you want to be within grant as a minimum qualification? If someone does not have grant writing experience.
There's going to be all kinds of grant writing that should be going on with pre-K and changes with computers with Gina Raimondo. So there's going to be a grant writing that's going to have to be done to bring in all this stuff. I think that's important.
Okay, well, let's just think about this for a second, because if we as a committee can take that into consideration. But the minute you put that in and they don't have any experience, they're out. They're out, you eliminate them. So I'm not saying it's not anything we can't consider. These are minimum requirements. And that's why I wanted to ask the question, is there anything else, do we have to put language in here that states that we as a committee reserve the right to be able to consider any additional experience or?
No, you clearly, it's really the same reasoning behind if you have a superintendent applicant who has 2 years' experience and you have one who has 20 years' experience, you certainly can add more weight if you want to, but you don't have to the 18 years difference. So it's the same thing. If a candidate has grant writing experience, that might be a plus, it might be irrelevant. So.
I'm glad you asked the question, Carol, because I don't want to exclude someone on what, for all intents and purposes, is not a full-time function of the superintendent. Is it helpful for them to be able to write grants? Yes. But is it the single most important thing that they'll be doing here in the school? No.
So it's desirable.
It's desirable, but not required. No, we haven't voted yet.
So do you want to change the word?
Why don't we, well, we got a motion on the table for Patrick.
More than happy to amend my motion.
And I want you to draw it.
I will withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw my second.
And consider number 5, it reads, when you read the whole thing, it reads well because it says experience as a principal or administrator. But I don't want someone to just skim this and go, oh, I've never been a principal, or someone to say, oh, I've never been an administrator. I mean, an engineer would see the or versus the and.
That one was pretty clear when we looked at job descriptors, and that's pretty standard for working at a superintendent.
Is it possible that someone who may apply and need a desired candidate in either one of those? Is there something else they could have been? Does that limit us?
They have to be one of those amounts to get to be superintendent.
Right.
Certification.
Yeah, there's certainly.
They have to have a
Certain
principal
requirements
or
of the state.
administrative background before they can have their certification.
Not a director or something.
No.
That would be an administrator.
So that would be
Just to get
considered
the superintendent certification?
Yeah, you have to have, there's certain requirements from the state to even
It
get
is a
your
separate,
certification.
It is a separate certificate resolution.
Right. But one of the requirements to become a superintendent is that you have to serve so many years within administration. You have to serve so many years within administration prior to being able to get your certificate as a superintendent. So it's kind of like it's built into it already. So that's it is, but that's the way that they worded it, so that's the way we added it. The thing about it that we can consider, which at the time we wanted 7 years, I still believe that that's strong. But the timeline, that's something that can change. But the wording I wouldn't change. It's pretty much how it is.
I guess then I'll entertain a motion to eliminate as a minimum qualification the experience with grant writing and Well,
like noted.
preferred? Okay. You want to change the language in that though? Rather than eliminating it? Experience with grant writing, particularly child would prefer.
If you put it under minimum qualifications, it's still a minimum qualification. I would suggest just removing it completely and then considering the candidates. If they have grant writing, then that's a bonus.
You know what do you think is HR?
I would go more with what's going to protect you from any argument. Like, you said that was desirable, I had it, this person didn't, you hired that other person.
Why don't we just, I'll make a motion to strike it. And we can certainly
I think it's
take that
very
into
such a
consideration.
small,
I know, if that's the one thing that's going to separate
it's not going to.
two people,
I'll second that motion.
any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So I will then entertain a motion to approve the job description as amended.
I make a motion that we approve the job description as amended.
Any more discussion?
No, you want to add anything else to the duration?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I will remake my motion to state that I make a motion that we approve the job description as amended and approve posting it on School Spring for a duration, immediately, and for a duration of 2 weeks.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, yes. Excuse me, my bad. Not quite used to that one yet. Any public input on non-agenda items?
Phrase it correctly.
I'll ask the question, you can decide to say whatever you want, but does Dr. Power get a bye, like previously?
It is March Madness.
Okay, just, that was it, thank you.
Anybody else have anything else they'd like to mention on non-agenda items? So none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Those in favor?
I love this right here.